Hi everyone, this is Callie, and today I'm sharing a card using products from the Simon Says Stamp May 2025 card kit. This kit features products from Ranger and Tim Holtz, and what's so special about the Simon Says Stamp Beautiful and Curious stamp set here is that it features images from the Tim Holtz collection and coordinate with his idea-ology Wallflower paper collection. This is just a quick glance of most of the things that are in this kit. You'll get an assortment of distress crayons as well, which we'll use later. To make today's card, I'm going to select a really neutral piece of patterned paper from the Wallflower paper collection. I don't want the colors of distress crayons that I'm going to be using to clash with any of the other colors that are on the more colorful patterned papers. So I'll cut down this one here. It's nice and neutral, and I plan on making it colorful using those distress crayons and some of the images from the Beautiful and Curious stamp set. To stamp with distress crayons, I'm using an acrylic block and adding my images and stamping one at a time with the colors that I'm going to use for each image. I'm going to use the crayon and scribble directly onto the stamp so that I can apply that pigment. And to activate it, I'm going to spritz it with a little bit of water. Now this is going to give a faux watercolor look, so you're not going to get the most crisp images, but it's going to add lots of color and a really good subtle watercolor look to the background. So I can do this with all four colors. I can do it with one. It just is up to you how you want your card to look. And obviously you can also control the amount of water that you're going to use and the colors that you use too. So with my second impression, I added more color but didn't spray more water, and that turned out a little bit more crisp. And then I did it again and spritzed more water on it, and that third butterfly was a little bit more splotchy. So it's a little bit more organic because you really can't control how it's going to stamp, but that's also the fun of mixed media. So I'm going to continue and work my way through all four of these distress crayon colors with different images from the Beautiful and Curious stamp set. Using the blue distress crayon, I added some script to my background, using the same process with scribbling the ink onto the stamp and activating it with water before stamping. Next, I'm going to use this grungy stamp image here with the little speckles on it to add the green. So I'm using a combination of nature, so the butterfly image, as well as some script, and now I'm using this green stamp for texture. And this last image that I selected has a little postal mark on it, and I'll stamp a bunch to fill in some open areas and add this bright and happy color to the background of this Wallflower paper. So I added a bit more yellow than I did for the other colors, so I went ahead and picked another smaller size script stamp image, and I decided to add more blue. So I'm going to quickly do that and fill in a few more areas so that I can add a bit more blue to this panel. And when I'm done stamping, I want to add a bit more color to tie it all in together. So I'm going to use the distress crayon and apply it directly to the paper and just blend it out with my fingers. I started with the green distress crayon, and some of the images that I stamped using the green is still a little bit wet. So this is working out great for me to smudge and blend out the pigment. But if it doesn't work well for you, all you have to do is apply a little bit of water to your fingertips before blending the color. So I'm going to continue with the background by scribbling some color on and then just smudging it and blending it out with my fingers all around the edges. I ended up only using the blue, green, and pink colors around the edges since I felt there was plenty of yellow towards the center of the card. So I'm going to leave this as is and set it aside and work on other elements so that we can get our pieces together before putting the card together. Here is a half sheet of the ice vellum that is a part of this card kit. I'm going to use a circle die and just cut a circle so that I can use this as a background accent piece for a butterfly that I'm going to stamp and color, also with those distress crayons. I'm using some Hammermill cardstock for some quick coloring, but if you want to use watercolor cardstock, that would work really well too, since I'm going to use the distress crayons next to watercolor this butterfly. This Black Soot Mini Archival ink pad is also included in the May 2025 card kit and is great for stamping and watercoloring. After stamping it, I can apply some of that pigment and water to this cardstock to color using distress crayons. So far we've stamped with distress crayons. We've also applied color using our fingers by blending, and now we're going to watercolor with Distress crayons. And I'm using this watercolor brush pen from the card kit. If you've never used one before, it holds water in the barrel, so it keeps your brush nice and wet as you're watercoloring. You can always squeeze out for more water, or you can always brush off the excess water onto a paper towel or microfiber cloth or anything else that you like to use while you're watercoloring. I'm scribbling some pigment from the Distress crayons directly onto my glass board, and then I'm picking it up with my damp watercolor brush pen and applying that pigment onto my stamped butterfly. Again, I'm using hammer mill cardstock. If you want to, you can use watercolor paper, but this is working well for me and it's not peeling at all. And I'm going over the areas more than once to blend the colors into each other and applying darker pigment as I work. So I'm going back and forth until I'm happy with the saturation of the colors. And as I work between colors, I'm going to clean off my watercolor brush pen so that I don't mix the pigment. And when I'm happy with how that looks, I'm going to use my cutter bee scissors to fussy cut this butterfly. Coordinating dies are available for the Beautiful and Curious stamp set. I just don't have them, so I'm just going to fussy cut this one image out. It's not a big issue at all. And next, I'm going to use this beautiful dotted diamond embossing folder to add texture over the ivory cardstock that is provided in this kit for a nice textured border around the background that I created. I should mention that if you are currently a subscriber, you're going to be getting this dotted diamond embossing folder for free as a subscriber gift this month. Okay, so at this point, I have all of my elements prepared. I'm going to take this panel and the other background elements to my sewing machine and sew it all together. I love the stitching that's on there, and it also is a great way to adhere backgrounds to embossed panels. To adhere my butterflies, I'm using some thin, small 3D foam squares and applying them to the body of the butterfly and attaching it to that ice vellum. Now I should have done this before I sewed my background to the embossed panel, but this works out just fine and turned out okay, so I was grateful. But I'm using that Archival mini ink pad that came in the kit and stamped it directly onto the background that I made. I got a good impression and I was happy about that, and I think it's helpful that that dotted diamond background that's embossed is a bit more uniform and there's not a lot of space between the dots. So anyway, I'm going to apply this panel to a card base, and that finishes my card for today. So I hope you enjoyed the 3 ways I shared on how you can use Distress crayons for a mixed media card. This May 2025 Simon Says Stamp Card Kit is a great one to buy if you want to play with these different techniques. And be sure to check out all the perks of being a card kit subscriber if you're not already one. For your convenience, everything I used in today's video will be linked below in the descriptions as well as on the coordinating blog post. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day. Bye everyone.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.